So I'm Ryan, I'm 22, and last weekend was supposed to be a real landmark. After busting my butt for 4 years, late nights, summer classes, even juggling part-time gigs to help with tuition, I finally walked away with a college degree. I wasn't expecting a brass band or anything, but what actually went down? Let's just say it wasn't on my bingo card. And man, I sure as heck wasn't expecting it to kinda crack something inside me, something I didn't even know was hanging on by a thread. Now my family? From the outside, they look like they're straight out of a sitcom. Suburban house, golden retriever, dad's a suit in finance, mom teaches the little rugrats in kindergarten, and a little sister, Maddie, she just turned 20, who's basically the undisputed queen of the household. Growing up, it was always, take it easy on Maddie, she's smaller, or let Maddie go first, she's just a kid. And you know what? I did. Gave her my last cookie, let her shotgun the front seat, even taught her how to ride her bike and proofread her high school papers. Didn't think twice about it. Figured once we were both adults, things would even out. Boy, was I wrong. 2 years back, Maddie graduates high school. You'd think she just got accepted to freaking MIT instead of the local community college. They threw this huge party in the backyard. I'm talking tents, those twinkly string lights, one of those photo booths with all the goofy props, the whole 9 yards. They even catered a buffet from her favorite Italian joint. Huge banner, congrats Maddie. Big enough to cover half the block, and felt like half the town was invited. They even sprung for a DJ. I remember standing there, helping mom arrange the cupcakes, sweat dripping down my back in the June heat, thinking, this is a little much, isn't it? But hey, it was Maddie's day, so I grinned and kept pouring the lemonade. Now flash forward to this year, it's my turn to graduate. I wasn't a skin for the moon. Didn't even want a party, just a quiet dinner with the family to mark the occasion. I was the first one on my dad's side of the family to finish college, and the first one on mom's side to do it without taking out any student loans. Thought that might mean something. Guess not. Graduation day, I got a quick "we're proud of you" text from the folks. Maddie didn't even bother with the text or even like the Instagram photo I threw up of me in my cap and gown. I walked across that stage, shook the dean's hand, flashed a smile for the cameras, and scanned the crowd. My buddy Jake and his parents drove up for the ceremony. They were waving and hollering. My own family? Ghost town. At first, I was making excuses for him. Figured maybe traffic was a nightmare, or they had to park a mile away, or something popped up. But when I got back to my apartment and checked my phone, there was a message from mom. We'll do a little dinner tonight at home. Nothing fancy, but hope you're hungry. I stared at the screen dumbfounded. Nothing fancy? I graduated with honors. I dragged myself through 4 years of stress, exams, and internships. Maddie got freaking balloon arches and trays of chicken parmesan. I got a smiley face and a vague promise of dinner. Still, I didn't want to make a big stink about it, I told myself, hey, it's not about the party, it's about being together. So, I packed my stuff and headed back to the house. Stepped through the front door, and right away, I could tell. No smells coming from the kitchen, no sounds of people logging, no glasses clinking together. Just Maddie glued to her phone on the couch, Dad glued to the golf channel in the living room, and Mom walking out of the kitchen with a lone pizza box. Happy graduation, she says with this kind of forced smile, setting the box down on the counter like she's unveiling the Mona Lisa or something. We got your favorite pepperoni. Maddie didn't even glance up. You're lucky, she says. Dad wanted to just grab McDonald's. I looked around. No streamers, no balloons, no nothing. Not even a freaking soda to go with the pizza. My diploma was still rolled up in my bag, and it felt like it might as well have been a paper towel. Mom must have seen something on my face, 'cause she hustled over to the fridge, grabbed a ketchup bottle, and squirted out the word congrats on a plate next to the pizza, then added this pathetic little heart at the end. There, she says, trying to sound upbeat. Now it's festive. I just stood there, completely stunned, like I was watching someone else's life play out. I sat down, grabbed a slice, and forced a smile. Thanks, I said, 'cause honestly, what else could I say? Then I pulled out my phone, flipped on the camera, and snapped a selfie with the slice and the ketchup-covered plate in the background. I captioned it "Dream Big, Kids" and threw it up on my story. Nobody in the house even noticed. They were all too busy watching TV. That's when I told him I was gonna go for a walk. Instead, I hopped in my car, drove to the Marriott out by the highway, and used that emergency credit card my grandparents gave me, you know, the one for real emergencies, to book a room. Figured this qualified. Didn't even unpack. Just sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the cheap hotel art hanging above the desk, and wondering how long I'd been lying to myself. How long I'd been telling myself that once I pulled off something big enough, they'd finally see me. That this family, my family, would finally treat me like I mattered. That if I was good enough, smart enough, helpful enough, successful enough, they'd look at me the way they looked at Maddie. But they didn't. They never had. And maybe they never would. About an hour later, my phone buzzed like crazy. It was my mom. Not a "where are you?" or "is everything okay?" Just, "are you coming home?" I stared at that message for a long time. Part of me wanted to blast back with something nasty. Another part of me just wanted to crash out and forget the whole freaking day ever happened. But instead, I just left her on read. I flopped back on the stiff hotel bed, phone in my hand, and started scrolling through the photos on my camera roll. There were a ton of pictures of me with Maddie, helping her move into her dorm, cheering her on at her dance recital, driving her to job interviews. But when I scrolled back to the pictures of me, there was almost nothing. Mostly selfies. Nobody ever really took pictures of me unless I asked. That thought just kinda landed on me, heavy as hell. The next morning, I just shut off my phone. Didn't bother checking messages. Didn't tell a soul where I was. I just chilled in that hotel room, munching on some crummy continental breakfast and watching cable news with the volume low, letting the quiet sink in. That's when something shifted inside me. Wasn't like some big breakdown. More like a quiet understanding. I didn't want to go back. Not just to the house, but to them. I was flat out done playing second fiddle in a family where I'd been the one holding things together for years. Done being the backup, the afterthought, the kid who only got noticed when it was handy. And right then and there, I started figuring out what I was gonna do next. I stayed put at that hotel for 2 more nights. Told myself it was just to get some headspace. But really, I think I just needed to grieve. Not a person, but the picture I had in my head of what my family was supposed to be. The family I kept waiting for, hoping they'd show up someday. I spent those 2 days in silence, letting my phone buzz till the battery died, reading books I hadn't touched since freshman year, and eating whatever lukewarm grub I could get delivered to the front desk. It was the most peace I'd felt in ages. When I finally checked out, I didn't drive home. I didn't even tell him I was leaving the hotel. Instead, I drove straight to Jake's place, my best friend since middle school, and crashed on his couch. He didn't ask a whole lot of questions, just tossed me a beer and said, "Took you long enough." He always knew what was going on. He'd seen it himself. The way my family treated me like the spare tire on the family car. Only useful in a pinch, and even then, kinda an inconvenience. "You are not gonna believe this," I told him, as I scrolled through Maddie's social media. While I was off the grid, my parents and Maddie went to some fancy dinner the day after my graduation. Matching outfits, cheese boards, a freaking banner that said, Maddie's summer kickoff. Jake raised an eyebrow. Your summer kickoff. Should have been your graduation weekend. Exactly. She hijacked it. No. They gave it to her. That's when it hit me that this wasn't some new thing. Maddie had always had this knack for Ben in every moment to be about her, and my folks never stopped her. When I got accepted into college, Maddie cried 'cause I was leaving her behind. When I got a scholarship, Mom told me not to brag about having money in front of her. When I made the dean's list, Dad said, well, it's not like you had a job while doing it like Maddie does. Jake didn't say much. He didn't need to. He just looked at me, shook his head, and said, man, that's messed up. That night, I was up staring at the ceiling, thinking about all the stuff I'd done for them. Paid half the electric bill while I was still in school because Dad had some surprise expenses. Covered Maddie's books for a whole semester when she forgot to sign up for her financial aid on time. Came home every break to help with the yard work and watch our little cousins so Maddie could go on road trips. I did it without thinking twice. At least. But now, looking back, it all felt like a whole bunch of stuff they just kinda expected me to do, not things they actually appreciated. The next morning, I switched my phone back on. Dozens of messages came pouring in. Mom, we're worried. Are you okay? Dad, this is immature. We tried our best. Maddie, seriously? It was just a pizza. You're being dramatic. Mom again, can you come home and talk like an adult? Dad again, we need to have a family conversation. That last one almost made me laugh right out loud. Now they wanted to talk? But what really got to me wasn't the fake concern in those messages. It was the idea that I'd just show back up, no questions asked. That I'd just cool off, come on home, and fall right back into my old spot. Like I always did. Like I always had. I didn't reply. Instead, I fired up my laptop and started working on something else. A resume. A brand new one. Then I started throwing out job applications. Not just any jobs, but ones out of state. Far away. Seattle, Boston, Austin, didn't matter. I just knew that if I stayed in that town, I'd get sucked right back in. And I was done being their freaking safety net. A few days later, Jake helped me haul my stuff out of the house. We waited till the middle of the day, when I knew they'd all be at work or out and about. I didn't want some big showdown. Not yet, anyway. I just wanted my belongings. Found my room exactly as I'd left it. The pizza box still sitting in the kitchen trash can like some kind of messed up trophy. As I was packing up my books, clothes, and a few framed photos I actually liked, I noticed something weird. One of the kitchen drawers was locked. The one Mom always said held all the important family documents. Curious, I went looking for the little key she used to tape under the junk drawer when I was a kid. Found it. I unlocked the drawer. Inside were a whole stack of envelopes, bank statements, tax returns, insurance papers. I started flicking through them without really paying attention till I saw something that made my stomach drop. A college fund statement with my name on it. One that had been closed down 3 years earlier. I scanned the page again. There was thousands in that account. Plenty to have covered my last year of school, easy. Closed by M. Dawson. Maddie? I kept reading. Turns out, they'd split that fund. But not even Stephen. They'd moved the leftover money into a brand new account, in Maddie's name. And guess what? It wasn't a college fund. It was a small business fund. My parents helped her start her Etsy shop selling beaded jewelry. With my college money. I felt the blood drain right out of my face. All this time, I thought we were barely making ends meet. that I was being all responsible and noble, paying for school myself, helping out when I could. Meanwhile, they were secretly funneling my future into Maddie's bracelet-making hobby. That freaking pizza party wasn't just an oversight. It was a big OL exclamation point. I snapped photos of everything, shoved the papers back where I found them, and locked the drawer up again. By the time I walked out of that house, I wasn't feeling sad anymore. I was something else entirely. Focused. Determined. Jake helped me load the last box into his car. "You good?" he asked. "Not yet," I told him. "But I will be." I moved into a short-term rental across town. Just long enough to tie up loose ends. I wasn't planning on sticking around for long. I needed to disappear in stages. First emotionally, then physically. I cut off their access to my bank account. I'd been listed as a secondary on a bunch of joint utility accounts for years. I pulled my name off everything shared. Insurance, bill-in, subscriptions. Changed every password. Clean break. But I wasn't finished yet. I still had one more move to make. One they'd never see coming. Not just payback, not just an exit, but something that would last. Maddie's birthday was always a big deal. Not just a party, but a production. Growing up, her birthdays were basically local holidays in our house. One year, Mom rented out a whole trampoline park. Another time, they flew her and her friends out to Disneyland. And even as adults, nothing had changed. Last year, they surprised her with a weekend in freaking Napa, all expenses paid. This year, she was 10 and 21, and I already knew what was coming. A blowout bash, booze, a full spread of catered food, and 100 people acting like she was Audrey Hepburn reincarnated. And I had zero intention of showing up, at least, not in the way they expected. For the 2 weeks before her birthday, I played it cool. No posts, no replies. My mom texted now, and then with stuff like, "Hope you're feeling better. We miss you." Maddie sent one message, "Are you still being weird? Or can I expect you at the party?" I didn't answer. Let them stew in their own silence and pretend they still had some kind of hold on me. Meanwhile, I was busy. I copied every photo I took of those documents from the locked drawer. The college fund transfer, the account closures, the bank records showing how they moved the money into Maddie's name. I even dug up old emails from when I first asked Mom about help with tuition back in sophomore year. She told me then, "We just don't have the money, honey. You're gonna have to tough it out like your dad and I did." Liar. But the real icing on the cake came when I checked the Secretary of State's website and found out that the LLC Maddie was using to sell her fancy jewelry was registered under Dad's name. Meaning, it was a family operation. Meaning, they all knew what they were doing. This wasn't just a Maddie thing, it was a them thing. The day before her party, I wrote an email. Short, professional, cold. I CC'd my parents, my aunt, and a few other relatives who always made excuses for him. I attached everything, photos, bank statements, screenshots. The subject line read, "Why I'm not coming to Maddie's birthday." The body of the email just said, "For years, I thought the problem was me. That I wasn't doing enough, being enough, achieving enough. I see now that no matter how hard I worked, it was never about what I did. It was about who you chose to put first. You took the money saved for my future and gave it to Maddie. You told me to be thankful for a slice of pizza while handing her my college savings on a silver platter. I've attached the proof. No one has to take my word for it. I won't be attending the party. Or any future ones. Consider this my RSVP permanently declined." And then I hit send. Jake was the one keeping tabs on the fallout for me. I wasn't about to go near the family group chat. But man, did things blow up. My mom called me 6 times in a row, leaving voicemails that started out all calm and concerned, then slowly turned into freaking rants. "You took those documents out of context," she snapped in one message. "That money wasn't just yours. We had to make a family decision." Maddie's response was even more predictable. She posted on her Instagram story a few hours before the party started, saying haters gonna hate. Some people just can't stand to see others happy. She followed that up with a group photo of her in some fancy white birthday dress, surrounded by her friends and cousins. But something was off. The party looked half empty. A few people I knew, our cousins on Dad's side, had left comments like, "So sorry, can't make it after all, got the email, or wish you'd told us sooner." The next day, I got a text from Aunt Valerie. Just one sentence, "You didn't deserve that, Ryan. I'm so sorry." It was the first apology I'd gotten from anyone in that family since this whole mess started. But even with that little victory, I still wasn't done. 'Cause while the birthday drama was satisfying in its own way, it didn't fix anything. It just scratched the surface. I needed distance, something permanent, a clean break. So when I got the job offer from that company in Chicago, a good one, with better pay than I ever thought I'd get, I said yes right then and there. I didn't tell my parents. Didn't tell Maddie. Didn't post nothing about it. I just packed. Quietly. Deliberately. The way you do when you're not just moving houses, but leaving behind a whole version of yourself. 3 days before my move, Dad called. First time in weeks. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to hear him out. "Ryan," he said. His voice was stiff, formal, like we were total strangers. "Your mom and I. We read everything. You blindsided us. You stole from me." "That wasn't a blindside," I said, keeping my voice calm and steady. "That was exposure." He let out this sharp breath through his nose. "You have no idea how hard it was to make that decision. Your sister needed help. So did I." Then there was this pause, a long choked-up silence. Finally he said, "You don't have to leave. You could still be part of this family, if you just—" I hung up the phone. That was the last conversation I ever had with either of my parents. The next morning, I loaded up my car and hit the road. But right before I left town for good, I did one more thing. I stopped by the university office and asked if I could make a donation to the college fund program. It was a small amount, nothing showy, but I attached a note for the kid whose family chose someone else. This is so they don't have to be their own backup plan. And then I drove away. I got to Chicago with nothing but 3 suitcases, a beat-up Honda, and this sense of finality that actually made me feel lighter than I had in years. I didn't cry when I crossed the state line. I didn't romanticize what I was leaving behind. I just drove, letting the flat Midwest landscape pass me by like a long, slow exhale. I'd spent my whole life shrinking myself to fit into a family mold that never had enough room for me to begin with. Leaving wasn't running away, it was getting released. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't holding my breath. The job itself was solid, mid-sized marketing firm, good vibes, decent pay. More than anything, it gave me the clean break I'd been craving. New coworkers, no baggage. Nobody there knew me as Maddie's older brother, or the quiet one. Just Ryan. Just the guy who showed up on time, worked hard, and had a sarcastic sense of humor that made the intern crack up during staff meetings. I rented a tiny apartment on the 3rd floor of this old brownstone with creaky floors and peeling paint, but I loved it. Every night, I'd fall asleep to the rumble of the L train in the distance, reminding me that life was still moving, still buzzing, and I was finally a part of it, not some afterthought sitting quietly on the sidelines. For months, I didn't hear a peep from my folks or Maddie. No calls, no texts, nothing. It was freaky, Like they'd just erase me from the family record the way you wipe down a to-do list when you're done with it. And at first, I was okay with that. But then Thanksgiving rolled around, and even though I had no intention of going back home, the silence hit harder than I thought it would. Jake invited me to spend it with his family, and I went. His mom hugged me like I'd just come home from some war. His dad piled my plate high before I even had a chance to sit down. They told jokes, asked about my job, poured me a drink when I mentioned the snow in Chicago. They just treated me like I belonged there. That night, after everything had died down and Jake and I were playing video games in the basement like we were teenagers all over again, he turned to me and said, "You ever think they'll come around?" I didn't even have to think about it. No. And that was the honest-to-goodness truth. 'Cause people like that just don't change. They might pivot. They might try to spin things. They might even try to rewrite history. But they don't actually change. Still, there was this part of me, some small, dumb part, that still wondered if they might reach out during Christmas. They didn't. Instead, Maddie posted a string of Instagram stories showing off her perfect family Christmas. Matching pajamas, Dad playing guitar by the fire, Mom holding up a new bracelet from Maddie's Etsy shop with some caption that said, "So proud of my girl's hustle." There just wasn't any room left at that table. Not even in a metaphorical sense. January came, and with it, a letter. A freaking physical letter, which was so weird for them that I almost thought it was some kind of scam. The handwritten on the envelope was unmistakable, though. It was my dad's. I stared at that envelope for a long time before I finally got the nerve to open it. Inside was this neatly typed letter, written on my dad's company stationery. It was a masterclass in passive aggression and carefully worded guilt. He wrote, "We hope you've had some time to reflect. Your mother is still deeply hurt by how things ended. We understand you felt slighted, but the truth is, we always made decisions with the whole family in mind. Perhaps you LL come to see that in time. Maddie is engaged now. He asked her on New Year's Eve. We're planning an engagement party this spring. Of course, you're welcome to come. Family is family. Don't let one bad season ruin decades of history." I just burst out Logan. Like, full-on, belly Logan. 'Cause even now, after all that had happened, I was still the problem. I was the one who needed to reflect. They hadn't done nothing wrong. They just made family decisions. Apparently, funneling my college fund into Maddie's jewelry business was just another freaking spreadsheet item on the Dawson family budget. I didn't reply. I didn't congratulate Maddie. I sure as heck didn't show up to the engagement party. What I did do was thrive. I got promoted 6 months into the job. My boss told me I had initiative and backbone, which was ironic, seeing as how those were the same exact qualities my parents used to complain made me difficult. I made new friends. I found this great ramen place down the block that knew my order before I even had to say it. I joined a community book club that mostly turned into heated debates about which characters deserved redemption arcs. I even met someone, Alyssa. She had curly hair, a nervous laugh, and a way of asking questions that actually made me feel seen, not just sized up. We took things slow. Real slow. And I was okay with that. Then came the wedding invitation. Cream-colored cardstock, gold foil lettering. You are joyfully invited to celebrate the union of Madison Dawson and Kyle Reardon. No dear brother, no handwritten note, not even a mention that we hadn't spoken in close to 2 years. Just a printed RSVP card with 2 options, and an instruction to accept with joy or decline with regret. I stared at that checkbox for a long time. And then I did something I hadn't done in years. I picked up the phone and called my grandma, my dad's mom. She was in her 80s now, and living in some retirement community in Arizona. She'd always been the one who sent me birthday cards, even when my parents forgot. We hadn't talked in months, but she picked up on the second ring. "Oh, Ryan," she breathed. "I was hoping you'd call." We talked for nearly an hour. She told me she'd heard bits and pieces of the story, but she didn't understand why my parents had drawn a line in the sand over something that was so clearly unfair. She said she tried to bring it up, but they just brushed it off, saying that I needed space. At one point, she paused and said, "You know, I never saw you as the quiet one. You were the observer, the anchor. And they used you like a life raft till they didn't need you anymore." I don't think anyone had ever said something that true about me before. She asked if I was going to the wedding, and I told her no. And then I asked her something I hadn't even planned to. "Would you ever want to come visit me sometime here in Chicago?" There was a pause, and then this laugh. "Ryan, I'd love nothing more." I never did RSVP to the wedding. But on the same day Maddie was walking down the aisle, I was walking with my grandma down Michigan Avenue, showing her the bean, introducing her to deep dish pizza, and Logan at the Pigeons trying to steal her hot dog. She said it was the best day she'd had in years. It hit me that something. That night, I posted a single photo on social media, just me and her on a park bench, holding up match and mugs of hot cocoa. The caption read, "Found the family that shows up." It got one like from Maddie's old college roommate. I don't know if she meant to do it on purpose, or if it was just some kind of silent nod, but it made me smile. And right then, I knew I didn't miss them. I missed the idea of them. The hope that someday they'd become what I needed them to be. But that hope was a trap, and the freedom I had found on the other side of it was something I wouldn't trade for anything, not even an apology. Months went by. Seasons changed. Life kept rolling on. Maddie announced her pregnancy on social media about a year later. There were balloons and glitter, and a gender reveal that involved a confetti cannon in their backyard. My parents were in the pictures, grinning from ear to ear in matching grandma and grandpa shirts. I didn't feel a damn thing. No envy, no bitterness, nothing. Just distance, healthy, necessary distance. They had their world, their carefully crafted version of family. And I had mine, quieter, smaller, but honest to God real. And in the end, that was more than enough. 'Cause I didn't just walk away from the party. I walked into something better, something real. Something that, for the first time in my life, felt like it was truly mine.